At Bondi Beach, joy turned to horror. 16 lives were shattered during a Hanukkah celebration. Targeted, authorities say, simply for being Jewish. A father and son opened fire. One bystander, of Arab descent, disarmed a gunman with bare hands. From Sydney to Berlin, security forces brace as ideologically driven violence surges, often by lone actors, sometimes linked to foreign incitement, always exploiting open societies. With weapons slipping through legal cracks, the West now faces a chilling reality. The deadliest threats may come not from armies, but from individuals radicalized in silence. I'm Henny Safe. Let's get in focus. Welcome back. The Journalism Post has reported that the tragic terror attack at Sydney's Bondi Beach targeting a Hanukkah event has profoundly shocked Australia. Police accuse the father and son of killing 15 people in an act Prime Minister Albanese labelled pure evil and anti-Semitism. The discovery of alleged Islamic State flags and the fact that the father was a licensed gun owner since 2015 elevates this incident beyond mere crime, pointing to the persistent global threat of radicalization, even in seemingly safe nations. In response, the Australian cabinet quickly vowed to overhaul its already strict gun laws, proposing a national firearms register and non-perpetual licenses. This firm resolve is a strong model for confronting terrorism and ensuring national security. According to The Guardian, at Bondi Beach, a Hanukkah celebration turned into Australia's worst mass shooting in decades. Dozens were wounded. Rabbi Levi Wolf said the inevitable has happened, echoing communities' long-held fears. Armed terrorist attacks have surged since October 2023. Australia recorded 1,654 incidents in 1 year, triple past levels. Similar spikes hit the US, the UK and Europe, driven by rage over international crises and toxic alliances between extremists. Security experts warn when hate becomes mainstream, violence follows. This attack wasn't random. It was the tragic result of unchecked radicalization in a world where joy is seen as a target. To provide a better focus, we're joined from Pennsylvania by Mr. Melik Francis, the political analyst. Mr. Francis, welcome to In Focus. With the gunmen legally owning 6 firearms for a decade, does Australia's tragedy expose a fatal flaw in how Western nations assess long-term behavioral risk among licensed gun owners?
First, thank you for having me, and my regards to you and to the viewers. I'd like to really denounce the terrorist attack on a Jewish Hanukkah celebration in Australia, which targeted innocent civilian. At the same time, I like to condemn the genocide committed by Israel in the West Bank, where innocent civilians, thousands of them, have been killed, and we don't see the same reaction from Europe and from United States in regard to the Palestinian victims of the Israeli war. And in regards to Australia and their guns law, whatever you do, you cannot stop violence and terrorism. Unfortunately, there are problems all over the world when it comes to gun. You have crazy people, you have terrorists. We have to go to the root causes of terrorism or of violence, and we are not really spending too much time on it. Yesterday in California, a son killed his father and his mother. He stabbed them to death That's what you call terrorism. And the son had drug problems, but unfortunately, the parents did not really spend too much time watching their own son. And the father was a very popular producer and actor here in the United States of America. So we have problems here. And as I said, we have to go to the root causes. When people from different facts of life see children are starving to death in Gaza, some of them, I think, are going to take the law into his own hands and attack civilians, and that's what you call really terrorism. So therefore, we must really spend time, and we must spend more money on security systems. And unfortunately, what happened in Australia is going to affect the Muslim community and the Arab community in Australia and Europe and here in the United States.
Yes. Well, the unfortunate death of the filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife stabbed to death is definitely very sad news for everyone who's involved in the entertainment industry and in general. But back to Sydney now, as the father-son attack there, a sign that lone wolves are increasingly operating in small ideologically aligned cells rather than in total isolation.
Very true. And as I said before, when the father and the son, who are terrorists, watch the news every day and see children in Gaza have been murdered or could not control themselves, and they did plan it really. It didn't come right away or on the same day. They planned it, and they knew that the Jews were going to celebrate Hanukkah on the beach. And I really commend the Syrian Ahmad al-Ahmad, who really saved the Jewish lives. Hopefully, the Jews in the world will at least Israeli radical rights who have been killing Palestinians on a daily basis. And we don't see any Israelis really trying to stop the Israeli government from massacring Palestinians in Gaza or in south of Lebanon. And really, we need more people like Ahmad al-Ahmad. Yes, it's dangerous. He was very brave to stop the son from killing more Jews.
Mm-hmm. It is definitely a very heroic story,
Yes.
being at the right place at the right time. But after the Bondi Beach massacre, if we may say, can Western democracies still claim their open societies are compatible with rising ideologically driven lone actor terror then?
Oh yes, I think Western Europe and the United States society are going to stay open because it's very hard, but they have really to spend more money on maybe strengthening their security agencies everywhere. And a terrorist, you don't know when a terrorist is going to hit. Here in Washington, D.C., about a few weeks ago, an ex-military man came from Washington State and killed one National Guard and injured another person. So he came from the state of Washington, not from Washington, D.C. So it's very unfortunate, but we have to spend more money, as I said before, on really on rehab centers. If the parents should really watch their children, the neighbors, the relatives, if they know that a member of their families or a neighbor has been radicalized, maybe he should be reported. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the only solution, really, for the time being.
Mm-hmm. Well, if armed terrorist attacks have tripled in Australia since October 2023, and the Australian Prime Minister Albanese has actually called this incident anti-Semitic, should Western governments now treat hate speech as a direct precursor to terrorist violence?
Yes, it should. And our president here, Donald Trump, should be the first one prosecuted because every day he has a hate speech against anyone who doesn't like. It's very unfortunate. And when they call anti Semitic, the Palestinians are Semites. So anyone that kills a Palestinian or is against the Palestinians, the innocent, especially the innocent children and women, is anti Semitic. The Jews are not the only Semites. We have to understand that. So when the Israelis kill Palestinians, the Israelis are anti-Semitic, and it has to stop. And if an Israeli or a Jewish person is attacked, the whole world reacts and condemns the action. But how about 10,000 of Palestinians and Lebanese have been massacred by the Israeli government? We don't hear too much about it because the world closed its ears and its eyes to the suffering of the Palestinians and the Lebanese and others. And how about in Sudan? We have Sudanese killing each other. How about in Africa? So there are problems in the world. And if we could work together, we could maybe stop the war and the violence. But unfortunately, now our president here, with due respect to President Trump, he is behaving as a dictator. It's his way or the highway. And it's very unfortunate.
Mr. Francis, now, if Australia, a nation already with strict gun laws, could suffer its deadliest shooting in 30 years, is no Western country truly safe from ideologically motivated mass violence?
I think now many European countries, and especially in Australia, are going to have stricter law who could get a gun or a machine guns. But it's not going to help because guns don't kill people. It's people kill people, unfortunately. So whatever they do, whatever laws they will come up with, it's not going to help. A terrorist is a terrorist. A criminal is a criminal. And there is no way you could really predict when a terrorist is going to attack or a criminal is going to kill someone. Here in the United States, a few years ago, maybe about 20 years ago, one guy, Jeffrey Dahmer, he kidnapped 18 persons and unfortunately he ate them. And it took a long time to find him. So it's very unfortunate. But as I said, that if I know my neighbor is radical and he's misbehaving, or even any of my relatives, I think my duty is to report them to security agencies in order to save lives. And whatever law you come up with is not going to help because it's easy to get illegal guns anywhere in the world. In Washington, D.C., you are not allowed to get a gun, but many of them have guns. So it's very difficult. And as I said, we have to go to the root causes. If we know someone has a problem mentally, I think we have to commit him to a rehab center.
Yes. Well, it's been reported that Mossad and Five Eyes Alliance are investigating possible foreign links. So is the lone wolf label becoming a dangerous myth that blinds us to transnational terror networks?
Oh yeah, very true. And what you said is very true. But the problem here, I think the Israelis now are trying to link Iran to the tragedy that happened in Australia, because I think the war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu is looking for, he doesn't need a reason to bomb Iran, but he wants to get the world community behind him by blaming Iran was connected to the father and son for committing that ugly tragedy in Australia. So it's very unfortunate, and because no one could stop Benjamin Netanyahu, so he could do whatever he wants. And as I said, he doesn't need a reason. He has been bombing Lebanon against international law on a daily basis. Same thing in Gaza, not allowing food to come into Gaza, especially to bring tents. And as you saw on TV, on many TVs, children almost drowned because of the rain.
Well, we can't finish off this interview without shedding light on the bystander of Arab descent, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who disarmed the gunman while global tensions are rising. Is that hope for humanity? Can ordinary courage outspace institutional security failures?
Oh yes, I think it's very positive, and many people will be like Mr. Ahmed Al-Ahmad. I believe he's a Syrian Australian, and he's a brave man. And as I said before, he saved God knows how many Jewish lives that day by attacking the son, the terrorist. And I think many people, I think nationwide, are trying to do the same. If anything happens, hopefully nothing will happen, but unfortunately, we are living in a dangerous world, and nobody knows where the problem is going to come.
Mr. Malik Francis, the political analyst, thank you very much, sir, for your insights. While terror strikes at Bondi Beach, another crisis simmers far to the west, where Trump's America tightens its grip on Venezuela, seizing tankers and flexing military might. But where's Europe? Washington redraws the Monroe Doctrine. Spain and the EU hesitate, caught between condemning Maduro and fearing a new war, with Beijing, Tehran and Moscow deepening ties in Caracas. Is Europe's silence a sign of strategic retreat or irrelevance in a world once shaped by its diplomacy? Has shifted from controversial drug boat strikes to seizing oil tankers, which is intended to cripple the country's main revenue source. While legally stronger than previous actions, the policy risks provoking a severe economic collapse. However, historical context shows that extreme economic pressure rarely topples deeply entrenched despots like Maduro, who has already survived a year of crisis and sanctions. Instead, this aggressive strategy is highly likely to backfire. Including a deeper recession will only exacerbate the existing crises of drug smuggling and mass migration, the very issues the US claims to be fighting. The lack of a clear, coherent strategy raises serious questions about the true political objectives behind this escalating entanglement. The Globalist has reported that the core reason for the Trump administration's hostility towards Europe is not merely its perceived decline, but the continent's refusal to be fully submissive. European democracies resist the hyper-mercantilist worldview that prioritizes US corporate interests and treats diplomacy as a transaction for private gain. This transactional foreign policy, outlined in the new U.S. national security strategy, sees global relationships, including those with Russia and Ukraine, purely through the lens of resource control. The primary driver is securing worldwide natural resources to enrich U.S. allies and family interests. This approach signifies a return to 19th century power politics, where commercial success replaces democracy and human rights as the top priority. The goal is unilateral dominance, viewing powerful nations like Russia and China as key players in the global resource hunt rather than partners in a liberal world order. To shed more light, we're joined from Cairo by Dr. Irini Saeed, the Egyptian academic and political analyst. Dr. Saeed, welcome to In Focus. Is Europe's fear of triggering another Iraq-style war blinding it to the urgency of preventing a Venezuela implosion?
Hello, dear. Thank you for having me. I think I envision that Trump approaches and policies provoke the international actor, especially motives has driven Trump not only to control natural resources, but also to commit or achieve or attempt to U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Another strong cause also is concealing Trump's desire to create dominance tied to his name as Eisenhower, so he adopted several strategic policies completely different from U.S. former president. Let's focus on some question. I think we have to focus. Trump has restricted the international actor through his policies and military forces in Caribbean. Also restricted their motives or movement there towards minerals, oil, and military installation which the ACTA have needed for more dominance.
Well, Dr. Said, if the US is now using oil seizures to force a regime change, why is Europe still stuck in statements instead of strategy or action?
Strategy to Europe?
Yes. I mean, why is Europe still not applying any sort of action or enforcing any strategy, and they just keep giving out statements?
Yes, let me focus on Europe's stance. It has several fears towards further escalation. European Union has adopted several ways in handling the ongoing conflict. Sure, firstly, support values of human rights and political path, also diplomacy solution. Also urges Venezuela to respect human rights and support freedom. But in this regard, let's review some facts controlling European Union intervention in this conflict. It has not accepted Trump policy, especially into NATO, Russia-Ukraine war. It has still engaged. Europe has still engaged in this war, suffered from the catastrophic implication. Also, leader of EU have suffered from traditional problematics, declining of military forces, illegal migration, terrorism, and increasing intensity of right-wing extremism.
Well, what about Spain? Why does Spain, a former colonial power, refuse to lead a European diplomatic front while Washington militarizes the Caribbean?
No, dear, I don't think that. Spanish stance doesn't really differ from public EU stance. Spanish has adopted a balanced, a measured policy and catched with democratic path. So it has demands parties to respect, demands the main parties to respect international law as clarified in a meeting gathered EU leader and Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez deliberated avoiding the take side of US. So we can say that Spanish strategy based on peaceful negotiation. It also deliberated not to participate on US collusion against Venezuela. As I mentioned for you, dear, there are lots of or several fears. Europe and Spanish also fears from it concerning the last engaged in Ukraine war.
Dr. Said, does Europe's reluctance to back either Maduro or Mercado expose its deeper crisis, which is basically the inability to act without US cover?
Europe knows well that this conflict would push Venezuela to more economic exhaustion and also absent negotiation between opposition and political parties to deliberate adapted measured policies. In this regard, let's focus on review the scenarios of the future conflict between U.S. and Venezuela if Maduro falls. Perhaps Trump to control further economic pressure and diplomacy isolation to create more pressure, also repression. But I envision that Trump would adopt a traditional American approach towards Venezuela concerning supporting opposition. So strong repression would break out, undermine security region. Eventually, Venezuela could mobilize military forces and its allies confronting U.S. forces. I think Spanish and Europe have been keen on serve the condition in the standard of less escalation.
Hmm. Well, if Venezuela does collapse under U.S. pressure, will Europe be ready or able to handle the next wave of refugees and regional chaos?
Strategy with Europe?
Yes, if Venezuela falls under U.S. pressure, will Europe be able to deal or handle the next wave of refugees, illegal migration, regional chaos?
I think, as I mentioned for you, no, it will take some days. If you focus on Venezuela in terror or the future of Venezuela of Maduro fall, I think yeah, there are some factor will control on this scene. Domestically in Venezuela, some notices we can record towards Venezuela entered. Venezuela people have supported Maduro and government, confronting U.S. policies towards their war limits, also U.S. pirates policies and seizure Venezuela assets. Meanwhile, political elites would push toward political measures. There are a war of dignity of state and unity, of course, sovereignty. Venezuela people also have several criticism towards Trump policy. So I think or I envision there is no web of revision.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Said, with the silence of European capitals, does that signal the end of a united European Union foreign policy strategy?
Concerning Europe's strategy in the future?
Yes. European countries and capitals are not doing much about what's happening in Venezuela. Does that mean that the European Union foreign policy is not united anymore?
I think theories of political science handle this convection. So I think that's a factor reshape the global or the international system in front of behavior of international actors, not only EU strategy. And I envision it would not be in the next few years. It would take some time.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I want some clarified in your question.
Yes, well, that's what I was asking. European countries are silent regarding what's happening between Venezuela and the US. Does that mean that the European Union is not united in its foreign policy agenda?
Yes, I envision it. The EU has agreed approach on united economic, but politically it would take some time in the light of Europe suffering from absence of political unity. Truly, that fact it's considered the agreed approach, as I mentioned, on economy unity, but still some problematics affecting in EU leader, especially increasing, as I mentioned, right-wing extremism, which is able to undermine modern political system.
Dr. Irini Said, the Egyptian academic and political analyst, thank you very much for joining us. From Sydney's shores to Caracas' corridors of power, two crises reveal a shaken West. One battling terror, bred in silence, the other watching its influence fade as great power rivalry returns. In both, the stakes are nothing less than security, sovereignty, and the soul of open societies. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode of In Focus. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.